Japan, a land where ancient traditions dance with futuristic innovation, where nature's raw power meets meticulous human design. As your eyes sweep across the misty silhouette of Mount Fuji, standing sentinel over Tokyo's gleaming skyline, you might wonder, how can one country contain such breathtaking contrasts? What makes Japan's landscape so uniquely mesmerizing? Is it the perfect harmony of natural and human-made elements? The profound respect for tradition woven into every vista? Or perhaps it's something more elusive, that distinct Japanese aesthetic that values impermanence, asymmetry, and the beauty found in simplicity. In this video, we'll traverse the length of this island nation, uncovering both iconic treasures and hidden gems that most travelers never see. You'll discover sacred mountains that have shaped Japanese spirituality for millennia, ancient temples that whisper secrets of the past, natural phenomena that seem almost otherworldly, and modern architectural marvels that push the boundaries of what's possible. Whether you're planning your dream trip to Japan or simply satisfying your wanderlust from afar, prepare to be transported to some of the most breathtaking places on Earth. This is Japan as you've never seen it before, a visual feast of wonder and inspiration that will leave you spellbound. The story of Japan's breathtaking landscapes begins, as it must, with its mountains. In a country where approximately 73% of the land is mountainous, these towering peaks aren't just geological features, they're the spiritual backbone of an entire civilization. At the heart of this mountain reverence stands the iconic silhouette that has become synonymous with Japan itself, Mount Fuji. Rising majestically to more than 12,000 feet, Fuji-san isn't merely Japan's tallest peak. It's a sacred entity that has inspired artists, poets, and pilgrims for centuries. The nearly perfect symmetry of its conical form seems almost too ideal to be natural, as if shaped by divine hands rather than volcanic forces. First, there is the unrivaled beauty of the form, wrote the famous English missionary Walter Weston about Fuji. The lovely curves of the sides have been the despair of every artist who has attempted to reproduce them. Indeed, no other natural landmark has been more frequently depicted in Japanese art. The ukiyo-e master Hokusai alone created his renowned 36 Views of Mount Fuji series, each print capturing the mountain from different perspectives and seasons. But what many don't realize is that Fuji's spiritual significance runs deeper than its aesthetic appeal. Since ancient times, the mountain has been considered a sacred dwelling place of kami, or Shinto deities. The very act of climbing Fuji was traditionally viewed not as recreation but as a religious pilgrimage. Even today, during the official climbing season from July to September, you'll find pilgrims in traditional white garments making their way to the summit, where Shinto priests maintain several shrines. While photographers often capture Fuji's perfect reflection in the still waters of Lake Kawaguchiko, or framed by cherry blossoms, some of the most breathtaking views come at unexpected moments, when clouds cut across its middle section, creating the illusion of a floating peak, or when the first light of dawn paints its snow-capped summit in shades of gold and pink, a phenomenon locals call Diamond Fuji. But Japan's sacred mountain tradition extends far beyond its most famous peak. In the ancient province of Dowa, now part of Yamagata Prefecture, stands the three sacred mountains of Dowa Sanzan, Mount Haguro, Mount Gasan, and Mount Yudono. For over 1,000 years, these mountains have been the spiritual center of Shugendo, a fusion of Buddhist, Shinto, and animistic mountain worship. The journey through Dowa Sanzan begins with Mount Haguro, where a 2,046-step stone path leads through a primeval forest of 600-year-old cedar trees. Unlike Fuji's exposed ascent, this climb feels like entering another world, one of deep shadows, moss-covered stone lanterns, and the distant sound of sutra chanting. At the summit stands the magnificent 5-storied pagoda, said to have been built without a single nail, its dark wooden form creating a striking contrast against the lush greenery. Further south, on the border of Osaka and Wakayama prefectures, lies Mount Koya, or Koya-san, the center of Shingon Buddhism for over 1,200 years. This mountain isn't celebrated for towering heights, but rather for the mystical plateau nestled among its 8 peaks, resembling a lotus flower when viewed from above. Here, over 100 temples create an otherworldly atmosphere, particularly in the ancient Okinawan cemetery, where 200,000 stone monuments line a 2-kilometer path through towering cedars, leading to the mausoleum of Kobo Daishi, the founder of Shingon Buddhism. What makes these sacred mountains truly remarkable is how they've shaped not just Japanese spirituality, but the very essence of Japanese aesthetics. The principles of wabi-sabi, finding beauty in imperfection and transience, emerged partly from mountain ascetics who observed nature's cycles of growth and decay. The concept of ma, the meaningful empty space, reflects the mist-filled valleys between mountain peaks. Even in modern Japan, where skyscrapers compete with ancient temples for attention, these sacred mountains maintain their powerful presence. They remind us that in Japanese culture, the most breathtaking marvels are often those that seamlessly blend the natural world with spiritual meaning, places where heaven and earth seem to meet, inviting visitors to transcend the ordinary and glimpse something timeless. As we descend from Japan's sacred peaks, our journey leads us to another realm of wonder, the country's ancient temples, where human creativity and spiritual devotion have combined to create some of the most breathtaking structures on Earth. In the ancient capital of Kyoto, spared from wartime bombing due to its cultural significance, over 1,600 Buddhist temples and 400 Shinto shrines create a living museum of architectural splendor. But even among such riches, one gleaming structure stands out: Kinkaku-ji, the Temple of the Golden Pavilion. As you approach through meticulously landscaped gardens, the pavilion seems to materialize like a mirage, a 3-story structure covered in gold leaf, shimmering above its reflecting pond. What many visitors don't realize is that the Kinkaku-ji we see today is actually a reconstruction completed in 1955 after a mentally troubled monk burned the original 14th century structure to the ground. Yet this rebuilding tells us something profound about Japanese culture: the value placed on the form and idea rather than the original materials, a concept embodied in the practice of regularly rebuilding Shinto shrines like Ise Jingi every 20 years. Each floor of Kinkaku-ji represents a different architectural style: the first floor in the palace style, the second in the style of samurai warrior houses, and the top floor in the Zen style. This harmonious blending of different aesthetic traditions within a single structure mirrors Japan's syncretic religious practices, where Buddhism and Shinto traditions often intertwine. But Japan's temple marvels extend far beyond Kyoto. Travel to Nara, Japan's first permanent capital, and you'll encounter a structure of such immense proportions, it will leave you breathless. Todaiji Temple, home to the great Buddha of Nara. Housing the world's largest bronze statue of the Buddha Vairocana, the Daibutsudan, was once the largest wooden building in the world. Though the current structure, rebuilt in 1709, is only 2/3 the size of the original, it remains an engineering feat that staggers the imagination. Standing 49 feet tall and weighing 500 tons, the Great Buddha contains enough bronze to cast 172,000 life-sized statues. What's truly remarkable about Todaiji isn't just its scale, but the technical achievement it represented when completed in 752 CE. Creating such an enormous bronze statue was a monumental undertaking that nearly bankrupted Japan's imperial government at the time. The project required melting and pouring bronze 8 separate times, with workers using primitive furnaces and massive molds. Yet beyond these famous landmarks lie temple treasures that most tourists never discover. Deep in the mountains of Gifu Prefecture, the village of Shirakawa-go houses Myozenji Temple, remarkable for its harmonious blending with traditional Gasho-zukuri farmhouses, steep-roofed structures designed to withstand heavy snowfall. The temple's bell tower is the only one in Japan built in this distinctive architectural style. Or consider Otaji Nenbitsu-ji on the outskirts of Kyoto, where 1,200 stone disciples of Buddha statues create an atmosphere unlike any other temple in Japan. Carved between 1981 and 1991 by lay people under the guidance of master sculptor Kocho Nishimura. These whimsical figures display distinctly human emotions, laughing, scowling, drinking sake, reminding us that spirituality needn't always be solemn. Perhaps the most mysterious temple marvel is Ryoanji's famous rock garden in Kyoto, consisting of just 15 rocks arranged on a bed of carefully raked white gravel within a small rectangular space. This seemingly simple design has puzzled and fascinated visitors for centuries. From no vantage point can all 15 rocks be seen simultaneously, a physical manifestation of the Zen teaching that complete understanding always remains just beyond our reach. What makes these temple marvels so breathtaking isn't just their aesthetic beauty or historical significance, but how they embody fundamental Japanese cultural values, the balance between grandeur and intimacy, the dialogue between natural and human-made elements, and the belief that architecture should harmonize with rather than dominate its surroundings. As we leave these sacred spaces, notice how the boundary between temple and landscape often blurs intentionally. Massive wooden gates framing mountain vistas, verandas designed to showcase seasonal changes, gardens that draw the eye outward toward distant horizons. In Japan's ancient temples, architecture itself becomes a form of spiritual practice, inviting us not merely to observe beauty, but to participate in it. Leaving the hushed grounds of Japan's ancient temples, we now turn to wonders shaped not by human hands, but by the forces of nature. Landscapes so extraordinary, they seem to belong to the realm of fantasy rather than our physical world. Perhaps no natural marvel in Japan captivates visitors more immediately than the Arashiyama bamboo grove on the outskirts of Kyoto. Step between its towering culms and you enter a world bathed in ethereal green light. What makes this forest truly remarkable isn't just the height of the bamboo, reaching up to 100 feet, but the sound. As wind moves through the grove, bamboo stalks knock gently against each other, creating a natural music the Japanese government has officially designated as one of the 100 soundscapes of Japan worth preserving. Walking through Arashiyama reveals an essential truth about Japanese natural wonders. They engage all senses. It's not just about what you see, but what you hear, feel, smell, and sometimes taste. This multisensory approach to experiencing nature reflects the Japanese concept of Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, the practice of immersing oneself in nature as a form of preventive healthcare and healing. Travel north to Hokkaido, and you'll discover one of Japan's most surreal vistas, the Blue Pond of Ba. Created accidentally as part of erosion control measures following the eruption of nearby Mount Fuji, this small body of water achieves its otherworldly cobalt blue color through an unusual combination of minerals and colloidal aluminum in the water. What transforms this peculiar pond into something truly magical is the way its color shifts throughout the seasons and even during different times of day, from electric blue to turquoise to almost milky white, depending on weather conditions and angle of light. Against this supernatural blue backdrop stand the bleached skeletons of long-dead larch trees, their stark white branches creating a dreamlike contrast that feels more like a painting than reality. It's no wonder Apple chose this location as the default wallpaper for one of its operating systems, introducing millions worldwide to this hidden Japanese marvel. Moving to the Kii Peninsula south of Osaka, we encounter one of Japan's most sacred natural wonders, Nochi Falls. Plunging 436 feet down a forested mountainside, it's Japan's tallest single-drop waterfall, but its significance transcends mere measurements. For centuries, Nochi Falls has been worshipped as a kami in its own right, with the massive volume of cascading water seen as a physical manifestation of divine power. What makes Nochi Falls particularly breathtaking is its juxtaposition with human elements, specifically the brilliant vermilion three-story pagoda of Seigantoji Temple. This perfect composition of natural power and architectural elegance creates one of Japan's most iconic views and illustrates how Japanese culture doesn't separate the natural from the sacred, but sees them as fundamentally interconnected. No discussion of Japan's natural wonders would be complete without acknowledging the seasonal phenomena that transform the landscape throughout the year. The most famous is surely Hanami, cherry blossom season, when millions of sakura trees burst into delicate pink and white blooms for just a few brief days each spring. During this fleeting period, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Suburban streets, city parks, even school playgrounds are suddenly transformed into ethereal pink canopies. What foreign visitors often miss is that cherry blossoms are appreciated not just for their beauty, but for their impermanence. Their brief blooming period serves as a poignant reminder of mono no aware, the bittersweet awareness of transience. When wind or rain sends petals cascading to the ground at the height of the season, this isn't seen as a disappointment, but as part of the essential experience, a beautiful ending that makes the brief flowering all the more precious. Equally impressive but less internationally famous is Japan's autumn foliage season, when maple leaves transform mountainsides into tapestries of crimson, orange and gold. Places like Koranke Gorge in Aichi Prefecture or the slopes of Mount Takao near Tokyo become natural galleries of color that rival any painted masterpiece. Perhaps Japan's most otherworldly natural landscapes are found on the remote Izu Islands, particularly Yakushima, an island within an island, a volcanic crater containing a smaller volcanic cone at its center, with steep green walls rising from the ocean, and only about 170 hardy residents. This double volcano creates a landscape so dramatic it seems designed for cinema rather than real life. These natural wonders reveal something crucial about Japanese aesthetics, a profound appreciation for what the philosopher Sotsi Yanagi called the beauty of natural accident. Unlike Western traditions that often seek to perfect or improve upon nature, Japanese approaches frequently aim to highlight and frame what already exists, finding beauty in asymmetry, weathering and the unexpected. As we turn from nature's marvels to human innovation, remember that in Japan, these realms are never truly separate. Even in its most futuristic cities, nature finds expression, if not in grand vistas, then in carefully tended bonsai, seasonal ikebana arrangements, or the simple perfection of a single autumn leaf placed on an unvarnished wooden counter. As we pivot from natural wonders to architectural achievements, we enter a realm where Japan truly excels: the creation of structures that simultaneously honor tradition while boldly reimagining what buildings can be. Our journey through Japan's architectural marvels begins with perhaps its most perfect traditional structure, Himeji Castle, rising above the surrounding city like a white heron taking flight, earning it the nickname White Heron Castle. This UNESCO World Heritage Site represents the pinnacle of Japanese castle design. Completed in 1609 after centuries of expansion, what makes Himeji truly extraordinary isn't just its imposing beauty, but its ingenious defensive design. Unlike European castles built primarily of stone, Himeji represents the culmination of Japanese wood construction techniques. Its seemingly straightforward elegance conceals a military mastermind's puzzle, a spiraling network of paths leading to the main keep designed to confuse attackers, with over 80 buildings connected by labyrinthine corridors and 99 gates. Remarkably, despite being crafted primarily of wood, Himeji Castle has survived earthquakes, fires and even World War II bombing raids that devastated the surrounding city. Moving from castles to more intimate architectural spaces, Japan's traditional Mashiya townhouses create streetscapes of subtle beauty, particularly in preserved districts like Kyoto's Gion or Kanazawa's Higashi Chaya. These narrow eel-bed buildings, so called because they're often no wider than 20 feet, but extend deep into their plots, embody the Japanese principle of using space efficiently without sacrificing aesthetic harmony. What's particularly fascinating about Mashiya is how they reconcile opposing needs: the desire for privacy with the necessity of natural light and air circulation in densely packed neighborhoods. Their ingenious solution is the saboniwa, small interior garden courtyards that bring nature, light and fresh air into the heart of the building without compromising privacy. These miniature landscapes, often no larger than a few tatami mats, demonstrate the Japanese genius for creating meaningful experiences within constrained spaces. But Japan's architectural marvel isn't confined to perfectly preserved historical examples. Turn your gaze upward in Tokyo's Omotesando district, and you'll encounter Kenzo Tanji's St. Mary's Cathedral, a structure so boldly modern yet spiritually evocative, it takes your breath away. Constructed from stainless steel, with walls that soar upward in sweeping curves to form a cross at their apex, this 1964 masterpiece demonstrates how contemporary Japanese architecture often achieves its most powerful effects through suggestion rather than literal representation. Further examples of Japan's architectural innovation appear in unexpected places. Consider Bennis House on Naoshima Island, part museum, part hotel, designed by Tadao Ando. Carved into a hillside overlooking the inland sea, this concrete masterpiece creates a dialogue between built environment and natural landscape that feels both thoroughly contemporary and deeply rooted in traditional Japanese design principles. Precise geometric forms frame carefully selected views of sea and sky, while play of light and shadow across concrete surfaces transforms static walls into dynamic canvases that change throughout the day. Perhaps no structure better symbolizes Japan's fusion of tradition and innovation than Tokyo's Skytree. Standing 2,080 feet tall, this broadcasting tower draws inspiration from ancient five-story pagodas, incorporating structural technology that has helped Japanese wooden temples withstand earthquakes for centuries. The tower's core column employs a Shinbashira system, similar to the central pillar in traditional pagodas, that allows it to flex during seismic events rather than resisting them rigidly. This marriage of ancient wisdom with cutting-edge engineering created the world's tallest freestanding tower in one of the most earthquake-prone regions on Earth. What makes Japan's architectural achievements truly remarkable is how they embody core philosophical principles that have guided Japanese design for centuries. Consider Yohaku Nobe, the beauty of empty space. Unlike Western traditions that often equate grandeur with fullness or ornamentation, Japanese architecture celebrates purposeful emptiness, understanding that negative space isn't absence, but rather a powerful design element in its own right. This principle appears magnificently in minimalist masterpieces like the Rock Garden of Ryoan-ji Temple, but it also informs thoroughly modern structures like Sanae's 21st Century Museum of Contemporary Art in Kanazawa. This circular glass building, with its transparent walls and carefully articulated void spaces, creates an architectural experience where emptiness becomes as meaningful as substance. Another guiding principle is shakkei, or borrowed scenery, the practice of incorporating distant landscapes into the design of a building or garden. This concept explains why so many Japanese structures seem to frame their surroundings rather than competing with them. From traditional temple verandas positioned to showcase mountain vistas, to the glass-walled Tokyo office buildings that reflect and incorporate the sky itself, Japanese architecture often achieves its most breathtaking effects by acknowledging that the building is part of something larger. What we witness in Japan's architectural marvels, whether a 400-year-old wooden castle or a newly completed Tokyo skyscraper, is a continuous conversation between past and future. It's an approach that doesn't discard tradition in pursuit of novelty, but rather finds ways to express timeless principles through contemporary means. The result is a built environment that manages to feel both deeply rooted and daringly innovative. Structures that can stop you in your tracks with their beauty while simultaneously inviting you to reconsider what architecture can be. Beyond Japan's main islands lies a scattered constellation of smaller land masses that harbor some of the country's most breathtaking, yet overlooked marvels. These hidden island paradises offer glimpses into alternative Japans, some seemingly transported from tropical fantasies, others preserving ancient forest worlds that have vanished elsewhere. Our island exploration begins with Yakushima, a UNESCO World Heritage Site floating in the waters south of Kyushu. This nearly circular island, dominated by mountains that trap passing clouds, receives incredible amounts of rainfall, sometimes more than 10,000 millimeters annually, creating one of the world's most magnificent temperate rainforests. What makes Yakushima truly extraordinary are its ancient cedars, known locally as yakusugi. These aren't just old trees, they're living monuments that were already ancient when Columbus sailed for America. The most famous, Jomonsugi, is estimated to be between 2,000 and 7,200 years old, making it potentially one of the oldest trees on Earth. Standing before its massive gnarled trunk, measuring over 16 feet in diameter, creates a profound sense of time's immensity that few human-made structures can match. Walking Yakushima's moss-covered forest paths, it's easy to understand why Studio Ghibli animators spent months here sketching inspiration for the mystical forest scenes in Princess Mononoke. The island seems to exist in multiple times at once. Primeval in its ancient cedars, vibrant in its cascading waterfalls and flowing streams, timeless in the way mist moves through the forest canopy, transforming familiar shapes into mysterious silhouettes. But Japan's island wonders aren't limited to temperate zones. Travel further south to reach Okinawa and the surrounding Ryukyu archipelago, where coral reefs, turquoise waters and white sand beaches create tropical paradises that feel closer to Southeast Asia than Tokyo. What many visitors don't realize is that the Ryukyu kingdom was independent from Japan for centuries, developing its own distinct culture, language, and architectural traditions. On Taketomi Island, traditional Ryukyuan villages are preserved almost perfectly, with narrow streets lined by houses enclosed by coral stone walls and topped with red ceramic tiles. Water buffalo pull traditional carts through streets of white coral sand, while surrounding waters contain some of Japan's most spectacular diving and snorkeling sites, including the famous underwater desert, vast expanses of star-shaped sand created by tiny foraminifera organisms. Perhaps the most surreal of Japan's island experiences awaits on Naoshima in the Seto Inland Sea. Once a declining industrial island, Naoshima has been transformed into an extraordinary open-air museum where contemporary art and architecture merge with natural and traditional elements. The island's abandonment during Japan's post-industrial decline created a blank canvas that visionary art projects have filled with wonder. At the Chichu Art Museum, designed by Tadao Ando, visitors descend into a structure built largely underground to minimize its impact on the landscape. Inside its concrete chambers, natural light pours through precisely positioned openings to illuminate works by Claude Monet, James Turrell, and Walter de Maria. The museum demonstrates how architecture itself can frame experience. As you move from darkness to light, from compression to expansion, each artwork reveals itself as part of a holistic journey rather than an isolated object. Elsewhere on Naoshima, abandoned houses in the Honmura district have been transformed into site-specific art installations through the Art House project. In Kadoya, dating from the 19th century, artist Tatsuo Miyajima filled a traditional wooden interior with digital counters submerged in pools of water, creating a meditation on time that bridges centuries of human experience. For those seeking wilder island adventures, the remote Ogasawara Islands offer a glimpse of evolutionary processes similar to the Galapagos, located 1,000 kilometers south of Tokyo, but still part of its administrative district. These islands were never connected to any continent, allowing unique species to evolve in isolation. Visitors who make the 24-hour boat journey, there are no airports, are rewarded with sightings of endemic birds, insects and plants found nowhere else on Earth, along with world-class whale-watching opportunities in surrounding waters. What makes Japan's island marvels so compelling is how each creates its own self-contained world with distinct sensibilities. The misty, vertical forest realm of Yakushima could hardly differ more from the sun-drenched horizontal expanses of Okinawa's beaches. The contemplative art environments of Naoshima contrast sharply with the wild, untamed nature of the Ogasawaras. Yet each island paradise reveals something essential about what makes Japan's landscape so mesmerizing: the interplay between human intervention and natural processes, the preservation of traditional practices alongside bold experimentation, and perhaps most importantly, the Japanese talent for finding the extraordinary within the overlooked. As one traditional Japanese saying advises, "Don't journey afar to view famous gardens. Look closely at a single leaf instead." On these hidden islands, whether examining a 3,000-year-old cedar or a grain of star-shaped sand, this wisdom comes alive, reminding us that some of Japan's most breathtaking marvels are those that invite not just spectacle, but intimate attention. We conclude our journey through Japan's marvels where most visitors begin, in its extraordinary urban landscapes. These metropolitan wonders might initially seem like counterpoints to the natural and traditional splendors we've explored, but look closer and you'll discover they're built on the same aesthetic principles, simply expressed through contemporary means. Tokyo's Shibuya crossing stands as perhaps the most iconic urban spectacle in modern Japan. When the traffic lights change and pedestrians surge into the intersection from multiple directions, up to 3,000 people crossing at once during peak hours, it creates a mesmerizing choreography of human movement. Often described as a scramble, what makes this everyday urban scene so captivating isn't just its scale, but its ordered chaos, a perfect example of how Japanese cities often function with remarkable efficiency despite extreme density. What visitors experience in Shibuya exemplifies a distinctly Japanese urban characteristic: the layering of experiences within confined spaces. Stand at the famous Hachiko statue meeting point, and within your field of vision might be a centuries-old shrine, a futuristic department store, a traditional ramen shop, and a cutting-edge electronics boutique, all functioning harmoniously despite their contrasts. This vertical layering reaches its apex in districts like Shinjuku, where the Metropolitan Government Building's observation decks offer breathtaking panoramas of the world's largest urban area, stretching seemingly without end. On clear days, Mount Fuji appears on the horizon, a reminder that even Tokyo's most futuristic vistas exist in dialogue with natural landmarks that have shaped Japanese identity for millennia. Perhaps no urban district better captures Japan's Blade Runner aesthetic than Akihabara, Tokyo's famed electric town. Here, multi-story buildings covered in giant screens and animated billboards create immersive light environments that transform after dark. What began as a black market for radio components after World War II evolved into the epicenter of otaku culture, a place where anime, manga, video games, and technology create sensory overload that somehow remains distinctly Japanese in its organization and attention to detail. Yet Tokyo's urban marvels extend beyond its famous commercial districts. In Yanaka, one of the few neighborhoods spared from wartime bombing, narrow alleyways lined with traditional wooden homes and artisan workshops create a village-like atmosphere that contradicts conventional images of Tokyo. Here, Buddhist temples and their associated cemeteries create pockets of calm amid the metropolis, while shops dating back generations sell everything from handcrafted brushes to traditional sweets unchanged for centuries. Travel west to Osaka, and you'll encounter an urban energy distinct from Tokyo's measured intensity. In the Dotonbori district, massive three-dimensional signage, including the famous Glyco Running Man and the mechanical crab of Kanidoraku restaurant, create an urban carnival atmosphere. What makes Osaka's urban landscape particularly fascinating is how it embraces sensory abundance rather than minimalist restraint, yet still maintains a coherent identity through its distinctive food culture and local dialect. Some of Japan's most breathtaking urban vistas come from unexpected vantage points. In Kobe, the view from Mount Rokko after sunset reveals one of the three major night views of Japan, where city lights are perfectly framed between mountain and sea. Similarly, Nagasaki's harbor view from Mount Inasa creates a million-dollar night view where city lights wrap around the natural harbor like a diamond necklace. Beyond these spectacular nightscapes, some of Japan's most moving urban environments are found in unexpected corners, like the art islands of the Seto Inland Sea, where declining industrial towns have been revitalized through architecture and public art. On Inujima Island, the ruins of a copper refinery have been transformed into the Sirinsho Art Museum, where industrial heritage becomes part of a powerful artistic statement about sustainability and renewal. What makes Japan's urban landscapes truly unique is their approach to time. Unlike many Western cities that emphasize preservation or progress as opposing values, Japanese urban environments often incorporate both simultaneously. A perfect example is Roppongi Hills in Tokyo, a major development that integrated preserved elements of the old neighborhood, including relocating large trees and traditional structures within its thoroughly modern design. This approach to urban evolution reflects the concept of scrap and build that has characterized Japanese cities for centuries, from the ritual rebuilding of Ise Shrine every 20 years to the constant renewal of urban fabric in contemporary Tokyo. Japanese urbanism often values the energy of creation over the permanence of specific structures. Yet within this cycle of renewal, certain elements persist. The precisely angled corners that create unexpected views, the pocket gardens that appear in the narrowest urban interstices, the attention to seasonal decoration that transforms public spaces throughout the year. These continuities create urban environments that, despite their hyper-modernity, remain recognizably Japanese. As night falls over these cities, another dimension of Japan's urban marvel reveals itself. From the traditional lanterns illuminating Kyoto's Ponto-2 alley to the neon canyons of Kabukicho, Japanese cities master the art of nocturnal transformation. What appears ordinary by day becomes magical after dark. Rain-slicked streets reflect neon signs, creating doubled worlds of light, while tiny izakaya behind paper screens glow like lanterns, revealing shadowy figures within. This nocturnal beauty embodies a principle fundamental to Japanese aesthetics, that some things are meant to be seen in dim light, where imagination completes what eyes only partly perceive. As the haiku master Besho might observe, in the half-light of a Tokyo backstreet, when a paper lantern illuminates falling cherry petals, the separation between urban and natural beauty momentarily dissolves, revealing that Japan's most breathtaking marvel might be this very capacity to find harmony between seeming opposites. As our journey through Japan's most breathtaking places draws to a close, we find ourselves returning to the question that began our exploration. What makes Japan's landscapes so uniquely mesmerizing? Perhaps the answer lies not in any single location, not in Mount Fuji's perfect symmetry, not in Kyoto's temple gardens, not in the ancient forests of Yakushima, nor in Tokyo's gleaming towers. Rather, what makes these places collectively extraordinary is the distinctive Japanese approach to creating and perceiving beauty. Throughout our journey, we've witnessed how Japanese landscapes, whether natural or human-made, often embody certain common principles: the embrace of transience rather than permanence, the finding of beauty in imperfection, the meaningful dialogue between absence and presence, and the harmonious relationship between human creation and natural form. We've seen how Japan's most breathtaking places often exist at fascinating intersections, where tradition meets innovation, where simplicity creates complexity, where restraint generates emotional impact, and where the miniature somehow captures the infinite. These intersections create experiences that engage all senses simultaneously: the visual splendor of autumn maples reflected in a temple pond, the sound of wooden prayer plaques clacking in the wind at a mountain shrine, the feel of smooth, warm stone steps beneath your feet as you climb toward a sacred waterfall, the smell of incense and wet earth in an ancient cemetery, the taste of fragrant matcha served in a tea house overlooking a carefully raked garden. What unites Japan's diverse marvels is how they invite not just passive observation, but active engagement, a way of seeing that the Japanese call miru rather than just miru, not merely seeing what's obvious, but perceiving what's essential. As you plan your own journey to Japan, remember that its most breathtaking experiences often come not from checking famous landmarks off a list, but from moments of unexpected discovery and connection. The perfect view of Mount Fuji that appears suddenly when clouds part, the hidden temple garden you stumble upon while lost in Kyoto's back streets, the small island fishing village where time seems to move differently. Which of Japan's marvels should you explore first? The answer depends on what calls to you most strongly: the spiritual serenity of sacred mountains, the cultural treasures of ancient temples, the primeval wonder of natural landscapes, the harmonious elegance of traditional architecture, the tropical allure of hidden islands, or the electric energy of futuristic cities. Perhaps the true marvel of Japan is that you needn't choose just one. In a country smaller than California, these diverse experiences exist in remarkable proximity, making it possible to stand in a snow-covered alpine village in the morning and watch the sunset from a subtropical beach the same evening. If you've enjoyed this journey through Japan, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more immersive and inspiring travel content. Let us know in the comments which country we should explore next. Until then, as the Japanese might say, Yoitabi o. May you have a good journey, whether in your imagination or in person, through the breathtaking marvels of Japan.